All right, if you're a data person, you know that analyzing things over time is pretty much the whole game. But here's the thing, those simple date questions you ask, they can be secretly destroying your query performance. Today, we're going to break down an incredibly powerful technique that will make your SQL queries blazing fast, way cleaner, and unlock insights you probably didn't even know you could look for.
So here's the plan. We'll start with the problem that I'm sure you've all felt, the date query dilemma. Then we'll introduce the solution, this special dimension table. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of how to build it, then look at how to add some real superpowers to it, and finally, see just how much this changes the game for your analytics.
Okay, let's set the scene. You've got this massive table, millions, maybe billions of rows of data, and your boss walks over with what sounds like a super simple question about dates. This, right here, is where the trouble always starts.
It's a classic, right? Hey, how do we do on weekends last quarter? Seems easy enough. You just need to figure out which sales happen on a Saturday or a Sunday. But the way you answer this in SQL, well, that makes all the difference in the world. Now, the way most people do this is they'd run a function, something like datepart, directly on their giant sales table, what we call a fact table. And yeah, it works, but it's brutal. It forces the database to do a calculation on every single row every single time you run the query. It completely ignores your indexes and just grinds performance to a crawl. So, this old way of doing things really boils down to two huge problems. First, as we just saw, your performance goes right out the window on any decent-sized data set. But second, you're really limited in what you can even ask. What about your company's weird fiscal calendar or tracking sales on specific holidays like Black Friday? Your standard built-in functions just can't help you with that.
This is the point where we stop fighting the database and we start working with it. And the solution is so elegant, it's beautiful. It's a dedicated, purpose-built date dimension table. Seriously, think of this thing as your analytical Swiss Army knife for anything and everything related to time.
So what is a date dimension? At its core, it's just a static calendar table. It has one single row for every day, say from the year 2000 to 2050. And for each of those days, it stores a whole bunch of pre-calculated facts about that day, like the day of the week, the name of the month, the financial quarter, you name it.
And the real genius here is the concept. Instead of calculating all these date details on the fly every single time, you do it just once when you build the table. You store the answers, and then you just look them up. It's literally like having a pre-built cheat sheet for every single date you'll ever need.
And here's where it gets really flexible. You only need one of these tables. That single date dimension can be joined to your order date, your ship date, and your due date columns all in the same query. In the data warehousing world, we call this a role-playing dimension because one table gets to play all these different parts. Okay, so you're probably thinking, this sounds amazing. How do I build one? Well, it's actually way simpler than you'd think, and it all starts with picking the right kind of key. Now, for most tables, you might just use a simple number that goes 1, 2, 3 for your primary key. But for a date dimension, the absolute best practice is to use an integer in the YYYMMDD format. Now, this seems like a tiny detail, but it is a game changer for something called data partitioning, which is how you break up massive tables into smaller, faster chunks based on date. Trust me on this one. Then, you just load up the table with all those useful attributes. Things like weekday name, month name, quarter, and of course, a simple flag like is weekend. Remember, you calculate these just one time, and then they're there forever, ready for lightning-fast lookups. And check out how easy it is. To create that is weekend flag, you just run a simple case statement. If the day name is Saturday or Sunday, you set a flag to 1. If not, it's 0. You run the simple logic once for every single date in your table, and the question of, is this a weekend, is answered permanently. No more calculations needed. Okay, having the basics is great. But the real magic, the part where this goes from just a useful tool to an absolutely indispensable asset, is when you start adding custom superpowers that are tailored specifically to your business. For example, want to analyze sales patterns around holidays? It's a super simple two-step process. First, you add a couple of columns, maybe is holiday and holiday name. Then you just run a quick update script to tag those specific dates. You find the row for December 25th and you just set the holiday name to Christmas. That's it. You're done. You can use this exact same idea for complex financial analysis. You can pre-calculate and store things like the first date of month or the last date of month. All of a sudden, those painful month-end reports become incredibly easy because you've taken all the complex date logic out of the report itself.
And for the ultimate power move, you can add relative date columns. So imagine a column called current month that you update every single day. For any date in the current month, the value is 0. For last month, it's -1. For next month, it's 1. Now, if you want a current versus previous month report, your query is just filtering where current month is 0 or -1. No more hard-coding dates ever again. So, after putting in a little bit of work up front to build this amazing dimension, what's the actual payoff? Well, it's a complete transformation in how you work. You go from writing these slow, clunky queries to things that are fast, intuitive, and crystal clear. Let's circle all the way back to our first question. What were our sales on weekends? The before query was that slow, ugly function call on our massive fact table. The after query? It's a beautiful, lightning-fast join to our new dim date table with a simple where clause that just says is weekend equals 1. It's cleaner, it's way more readable, and it's just orders of magnitude faster.
And this, right here, this is the main takeaway. Yeah, the performance gains are huge. You'll love them. But the real value of building out a proper date dimension is that it lets you ask completely new kinds of questions. Questions about custom holidays, fiscal periods, or relative timeframes that were just too hard or too slow to even attempt before. Now, they're trivial. So I'll leave you with this final thought. When you build one of these, you're not just speeding up your old reports. You're fundamentally creating a new, more powerful lens to look at your business. So the real question you have to ask yourself is, what hidden trends are just sitting there in your data, waiting for you to find them? If only you had a calendar that was actually built for analysis.